there's a park down the street where I like to take my morning walks. It's a nice spot with lush green lawns, a playground for the kiddos, and a few walkways and trails. Most days I find the spot extremely calming. But then there are days, usually in autumn, when I remember the 2,000 or so bodies buried beneath the neatly manicured lawn. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Emily Harris, author of STEAMY Historical Romances, and in today's author inspiration video, we are taking a look at the haunted history of Denver's Cheesman Park. In 1858, General William Larimer established Denver City at the confluence of the South Platte River and Cherry Creek. As part of his vision for the new city, he chose a windswept hill overlooking majestic views of the Rocky Mountains as the location for the city's cemetery and named it Prospect Hill. The area would often be called Mount Prospect, and he intended the land to act as the final resting place for Denver's affluent residents. Portions of land were allotted for the major religious and ethnic populations in Denver at the time, including the Jewish, Protestant, Catholic, and Chinese. Unfortunately, the dry and often ill-kept land proved unpopular among the growing rich in Denver, and the area became more of a potter's field for criminals, paupers, and smallpox victims, many of whom were buried in unmarked or mass graves around the edges of the cemetery. By the 1880s, having failed in its original purpose and having become mostly an eyesore, Denver requested permission from Congress to repurpose the land into a park. This change was granted in 1890, and the area was renamed Congress Park. The city then requested family members of those buried in the cemetery to remove their deceased. Unfortunately, an estimated 5,000 bodies remained unclaimed or otherwise lost to unmarked graves. In 1893, the city hired undertaker Edward P. McGovern to remove the remaining bodies from the cemetery. The city paid McGovern $1.90 per corpse removed. McGovern soon found a way to multiply his earnings by using children's caskets instead of adult caskets to remove the bodies. This necessitated dismembering the remains into 2 or 3 caskets apiece. Scandal ensued when locals realized his scheme, and McGovern was fired. The remaining 2,000 bodies were left to await their fate as the project stalled due to the silver crash of 1893. The project would not be picked up again until 1898, at which point the remaining grave sites were covered over and largely forgotten. As you might imagine, these events are credited with disrupting the peaceful slumber of the dead. And ever since this time, stories of ghostly figures haunting the park and the surrounding neighborhoods have become an intrinsic part of local lore. One of the first reports came from a gravedigger who worked with McGovern. The man, who looted graves as he went, claimed he felt a ghostly hand on his shoulder as he worked. Needless to say, he left early that day and did not return. Residents of the surrounding neighborhoods, which incidentally are now bedecked with beautiful million-dollar homes, also soon began making claims of having seen distraught or confused-looking spirits knocking at their doors and windows. Perhaps these poor souls were searching for their missing limbs. One woman is said to sit at a prominent dining table holding her severed head in her hands. Visitors to the park have also seen and heard children laughing and playing at night, but then vanish. There is also the disappearing figure of a woman strolling along and singing to herself. And in case you were wondering, yes, at least one writer was influenced by these specters. Russell Hunter, co-author of the 1980 supernatural horror film The Changeling, claimed the events in the movie were based on his experiences while living in one of the park's nearby mansions. So, is the park haunted? I don't know, but they say if you look out over the park at sunset from the West Pavilion steps, you can still see the outlines and depressions of graves, and on some misty nights, perhaps even phantom headstones. All right, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this little excursion into one of my favorite neighborhood spots. There is so much more history to the area that I wasn't able to include, but I'm already planning follow-up videos to include more of that information later on. As always, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing so you can stay up to date on all the wonderful and romantic places that inspire me. Until next time, happy reading.